Hey, what is up all you lonely watchers out there? As you all know, I adore Yokai Watch 4. From the story, to the graphics, to the character design, to the gameplay, this game is such a treat. But barely anybody talks about it online as much as the other games. And since I've been playing 4 a lot more recently, and I've been seeing people post rankings of the Yokai Watch 3DS bosses, I thought it would finally be the perfect time to rank every single boss in Yokai Watch 4. This game has a more unique battle system compared to the other 3 games that people don't talk about as much, especially in regards to the bosses. Before we start, however, I do want to make a few things clear. 1. Since some of my latest fights against these bosses were in the Yokai Watch 4 Nuzlocke, the only time I used the English mod for the game, you'll see a mix of English and Japanese gameplay on screen. 2. While there is a boss section of the Wikipedia, this game's version of the medallion, it has some strange exclusions such as Swordbearers or bosses who have friend forms. For this list, I'm going to count all yokai from the boss section of the Wikipedia, all yokai with boss missions and Pura blasters, and all yokai with title cards to be bosses. 3. Yokai Watch 4 bosses aren't inherently as interesting as 3DS bosses due to their real-time battle structure and major lack of gimmicks in comparison. Please understand that this means I may not be able to comment much on some bosses. And 4. This ranking will be based on various factors such as character design, fight design, difficulty, gimmicks, and generally how much I enjoy brawling with them. With that out of the way, let's start the ranking. Going from the bottom and working our way up, Number 23. Hoggles. This is by far the most annoying fight in the entire game. First of all, this is a boss from Pura Blasters, which has a map phase in addition to a boss arena. For some unlordly reason, however, they decide to give him a mini blaster style fight on the map, followed by a section where you follow him as he runs to the bathhouse while occasionally stopping to catch his breath. You can hit him during this phase for extra Oni orbs, but no additional damage is done. This isn't a quick phase either, as even though the initial fight spawns close to the bathhouse, he'll do loops all over Blossom Heights before he decides to enter. When you finally get to the bathhouse, it becomes an arena with 4 different baths which he can turn into lava and replenish his health with later. It's for this reason that you need to constantly shift to the watchers on the sidelines who can spray the lava with water. This prevents him from healing, but also prevents you from dealing consistent damage, which is important because this battle is timed, and this timer starts at the very beginning when you haven't made it to the bathhouse yet. So due to how much Hoggles can dilly-dally during that phase, there'll be a severe dent in the timer by the time you get to this point. Even with a level 99 team, this boss can be painfully slow. 30 minutes may sound like a lot of time for this boss, but I have ran out the timer on the Ultra form several times, and even the Super form on occasion. This boss is just tedious and time-consuming all around, which makes it the worst boss by far. I miss the days of Yokai Watch 1 and 2 where he was much more of a breeze. Number 22. Sproink. Sproink's battle is basically the same except he's way less beefy than Hoggles, making the fight more manageable. Number 21. Oni Trio. This fight wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that you're facing Gargaros, Ogreless, and Orkanos all at once who have massive hitboxes and attacks that can clear a decent portion of the stage in seconds. They're fairly difficult to simultaneously manage, but it's not too bad considering the arena you fight in is pretty large. I would advise being over-leveled or playing with humans for this fight if you don't want it to take all day, while also focusing on taking out one Oni at a time. Number 20. McCracken and Demuncher. These yokai aren't hard to fight, they just make me sad. They made McCracken a boss for the first time since Yokai Watch Blasters, and all his moves are just kinda lame. I wish he used his tentacles more like how he did in the Yokai Watch 1 fight, maybe to attack behind him or use his extra limbs. McCracken was originally supposed to have his second form as his quote-unquote shadow side, but this was also removed. Pairing him with Demuncher is kind of weird as well, because as far as I know, these two don't really know each other, nor do they have any correlation. Not making Demuncher his own boss also makes him much lamer in comparison to his Blasters fight. Number 19. Hinozal, and Wobble Walk. Similar reasoning here, but at least Hino has the ability to summon yokai like in his Psychic Blasters fight. Wobble Walk isn't so lucky, as his eye-changing gimmick is completely absent in this fight. I'm thankful this version of Hinozal is less rage-inducing, but pairing these two together makes them both more boring as a result. Number 18. Sheen. A lot of the next few fights aren't bad, but just incredibly boring swordsman fights with no unique attacks or gimmicks. Sheen is the worst offender, as he's one of those fights where the player wins in the battle and loses in the cutscene. One of my least favorite tropes in RPGs. He has a decent design, but nothing too special. One of the more generic designs in the Enma family tree. Number 17. Shinma Voidera. While this fight is narratively impactful, it's pretty boring gameplay-wise and you can pretty much put it on autopilot. This is even more evident by the fact that you're forced to play as Shuten Doji in this fight. I wouldn't normally include fights like this in a boss ranking, but the Wikipedia says he's a boss, so I have no choice. Number 16. Dark Ananta. Same logic as before, but you have your entire team and the fight is slightly more entertaining. This fight is very annoying to get to though, as you have to complete every quest in the game and you can only fight this boss once per save file. Number 15. Shinma Ananta. This is basically the same fight, but I only ranked it higher because it has slightly more narrative weight. Number 14. Jin Gekki. One of the first bosses even shown off for the game in the early days, and it has a very simple gimmick. To stun him, you must drain his heart enough to pull it out of his chest. Other body parts can also fall out during the fight. The main reasons I'm ranking him so low are his simplicity and low level of challenge. They also reuse this fight multiple times in the story, which diminishes the spark. Number 13. Yamamba. Yamamba has a wicked design and build-up, but no battle gimmicks to support it. Since the Takashiro Mansion is a dungeon mainly built on stealth and avoiding her, maybe they could have added some comparable elements to her moveset like timed bombs or traps. Perhaps she could be stunned or take extra damage when being attacked from behind. Anything really. She just feels like wasted potential. But she still has a really cool and creepy design. Number 12. Tamamo no Mai. This boss is a basic yet powerful one, coming later in the game's story. She has some hard hits as well as an array of draining and inspiriting abilities. Her design is also super cool with her multiple sets of limbs and stripes going up and down each one. She's one of the more challenging story bosses, but not the most unique in terms of gameplay. Number 11. Suzaku Swordbearer. This is one of the more boring Swordbearer fights, especially considering it's the first and you're limited to using Bruno, Jr., and Yuribo. This makes the battle kind of drag on, and the other Swordbearers have much more interesting attack patterns. Number 10. Ashura. Ashura's fight similarly limits some of your team, as you're forced to remove Shuten Doji. Shuten Doji is one of the major auto-befriended S ranks you have at this point in the game, so that might deal a blow to your team in this fight. It makes him feel like another generic anime swordsman fight of the likes I was speaking of earlier. Number 9. Genbu. You have total freedom over who you bring to the Genbu fight, and it's nice to see an axe wielder, but he has a multitude of attacks that can take up a third or more of the arena, which can be tricky to deal with. He's an overall decent fight, but nothing I'm excited to replay, especially with the build up to his dungeon. Number 8. Byakko. Byakko is my absolute favorite of the Swordbearers. Not only is his design super cute, but he has a very unique arena and a multitude of bamboo-based attacks which have more range than the other Swordbearer fights, forcing you to actually think and try to space yourself out from the enemy. He brings a very unique aesthetic and decently tricky attacks to the Swordbearer boss lineup. Number 7. Kirin. Kirin, oddly enough, is the only Celestial you fight in the game, as you generally fight the Swordbearer equivalents of the others instead. This acts as a warm-up fight for Suzaku. It's very fun to make use of Junior and Bruno's ranged attacks while he's charging across the stage or floating in the air. You can also use the drain function on Kirin when he's in the air to stun him. One of the first boss gimmicks I properly figured out while playing the game in Japanese. Just the atmosphere and the rhythm of dodging and attacking alongside the intensity of only having 3 party members gives you such a rush and I love it. Number 6. Slimamander. Slimamander is always a great boss no matter what game he's in. He acts as the first and main tutorial boss in 4. Instead of targeting attacks on his eyes to open them up like before, you instead have to hunt for his eye and drain it, pulling it out of its socket. The eye even has a name, Metamanbo. The eye will run around the arena for a little while you try to attack it, with said damage transferring to Slimamander when he gets back inside. This is such a unique idea which keeps the spirit of Slimamander's fight while also keeping it fresh and adapting it to the style of Yokai Watch 4's battle system. Number 5. Shinma Fukuro. After Fukuro got corrupted by the Soranaki virus, he turned into this monstrosity, which somehow still kind of feels like Fukuro. This is the first main boss where Haley's delivery service is used, dropping not only recovery items but these electric blocks as well, which you need to lead Fukuro into sucking up in order to stun him. I like how this is one of the first main bosses to add some physicality to the arena and really makes use of the player's autonomy to lead on the opponent. That and extra points for Haley actually being useful in this game, which she often isn't. Hashtag justice for Haley. Number 4. Raiden Ryu. As the final boss of the sumo tournament mode, Raiden Ryu is the only boss to take advantage of said mode's unique gimmick. Either party can be knocked off the stage before their health runs out with enough momentum and constant damage. This creates a really interesting fight and a great final challenge for this mode. Raiden Ryu has a wide range of close and ranged lightning attacks which will have you running all around the tiny arena while trying not to get too close to the edge. It's one of the best fights in this game and it acts as a great test of skill. Number 3. Overseer. The looming threat of the entire game does not disappoint. Even though he cannot stray from his post, the Overseer can use a multitude of attacks with his detached arms and eye beams to stun the player. The main goal of this fight is to first take out the arms before focusing your attack on the eye. This fight brought some intensity to the endgame and his threatening presence was given the payoff it deserves. Number 2. Lady Arachnneia. Lady Arachnneia at one point was my favorite boss in the game. She has an amazing aura and massive build-up to her fight which doesn't disappoint. She mainly uses her webs to fight, spraying her opponents and leaving webs on the floor to slow down or damage you. She also has a gimmick where she suspends humans from the ceiling with her webs. Using a Watcher's Drain function can help set them free if you have the opportunity window. And you're gonna wanna find one. While some of these people can give you nothing or minor stat increases, some have the ability to straight up stun Lady Arachnneia. This is one of the best uses of the Drain gimmick by far, and it's such a grand way to end the chapter. Number 1. Maten Overseer. The final fight of the game. Overseer takes on a humanoid form and attempts to settle the score once and for all. The music for this fight is one of the best in the entire game, or maybe even the series. Being upbeat yet unsettling at the same time with that classic Yokai Watch sound font. You can really feel the Overseer clinging onto power as you lock in and dodge roll out of all of his sword slashes. On top of this, you can occasionally drain the Crankakai which spawns at the center of the arena to call on the support of a random yokai. The design, the atmosphere, the flow, everything about this fight adds up to a very cinematic ending to the most cinematic story this franchise ever told, making it my number 1 boss in the game. But that is merely my opinion. So, what are your favorite and least favorite bosses in Yokai Watch 4? Do you think I made any grave errors in my ranking? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye, my Lonely Watchers.